English translation 295th contact. Tuesday, 13th February 2001, 22:29 hours.
I closed the door to Eva's office and let a CD play a little loud. So the door is closed.
It is not necessary for you to lock it because Eva will not come over. But make some loud music. But now be greeted quite dearly.
Yes, I forgot. Be warmly welcome. But now wait a moment. I will quickly put on a CD. Caution, someone is coming into Eva's office. Get behind the book wall. Atlant, good night and sleep well.
Thanks, you also, good night.
You can come forward again, Florena.
That was really unforeseen.
Yes, it was close. I did not think Atlant would come to my office to say goodnight. But now there will be peace, I guess, if Eva does not wake up to the loud music. Should I not close the door, or at least close it completely?
You really do not have to close it because Eva will not come over. But maybe it would be a good idea to close the door completely. The music is really loud for the sleeping people over there.
You are right. Maybe Selena will wake up otherwise. So...
That is good. Now it is certainly not too loud over there. But the loud music is good because you cannot hear us talking like that.
May I ask you about the incident on the night of the 3rd or 4th of February? I am talking about the telemetry disc that Hans-Georg Lanzendorfer drove into.
There is not much to tell about it. As you know, during the months of January, February, and March, a very specific work is carried out for the benefit and progress of all core group members. This work is done on the 3 days and evenings or nights of the first weekend of the month. Since it is now not possible that everything can be done and carried out for every day, for example, if the General Assembly is finished earlier than our work, the individual group members have to leave the center and drive or walk outside the monitoring circle from our telemetry disc further.
I am sorry, you mean the 3-meter telemeter disc that does the work.
That is right. This device then follows the corresponding group member and completes everything. When Georg Hans Lanzendorfer...
Sorry, his name is Hans-Georg, not Georg Hans.
Pardon. Well, Hans-Georg Lanzendorfer. With him not everything was completed yet. Therefore the flying device followed him to complete everything. It happened that the device was pushed down a little by a vortex of air, which meant that Hans-Georg and his vehicle got into the protective shield of the flying body, which shone brightly on the solid matter of the automobile.
When I called you on the 4th of February, you told me that this telemeter disc was designed exclusively for the core group members and for specific purposes, and was in operation all year round. In addition, it is supposed to contain 49 small telemeter control discs on its underside, which, on the one hand, are tuned to each individual core group member and, on the other hand, during the certain times during which the members are to stay in a special circle around the center for certain purposes worked out by you. A member-determined small control disc is automatically loosened and accompanies the member at an unlimited distance if he or she gets outside the fixed monitoring circle or has to leave it for some reason. However, this only works if a group member leaves the monitoring ring from the center site. If there are absences due to illness, etc. during the fixed attendance times at the center, whereby these absences are recorded by you, then special separate control discs of about 30 centimeters in size, which are connected to the large telemetry disc, are ordered in order to fulfill their functions for the absent persons concerned. As you said, as Ptah also mentioned, it should be avoided, if possible, to go outside the monitoring circle, or to be absent during the set times. It may well be possible to carry out external tasks, because the small control discs of the mother device accompany each member of the core group, but external tasks, etc. should not be made a habit of. Is this correct?
You have not forgotten anything about what was explained to you.
Pleasing for me. But we are talking about completely different things than we should, no? I think you wanted to discuss other things with me.
Yes, I wanted to discuss some personal things with you. Besides, I should greet you very dearly from Zafanat Paneach, and also address some questions from him to you. Unfortunately, he cannot come personally because he has an important job to do far away from here. If you have enough time, then I would like to ask you his and my questions.
Of course. It is also a great honor for me to be able to help both of you with my advice or with possible explanations, etc. Even though I may wonder some other time that you and Zafanat Paniach do not turn to your advisors who you can visit at any time.
We have placed our trust in you and greatly appreciate your advice.
This sounds as if you have less trust in your counselors than in me, or am I mistaken?
That is not quite true, because we also appreciate our advisors to a due degree. But what you surely understand is that you always turn for advice to the person you feel closest to in good, friendship, and to whom you also trust the better ability to judge, or of whom you know that he has the better ability to judge. And since we know your origin and history, as well as Ptah and all others, and also our spiritual leadership, and since we also know that at any moment, should it be necessary, you can also retrieve the values of necessary explanations and advice, etc. stored in the memory banks, we turn to you as well as to Ptah and the others. It is fundamentally important that the memory values in the memory banks that you can retrieve go back a very long time into the past than ours, and therefore also those of our advisors. But these longer periods, which are to be calculated in billions of years, mean that in the storage bank levels of your spiritual form and all your past personalities much more knowledge, love, and wisdom are stored impulsively than is the case with our counselors, who up to now have accomplished at most impulse deposits, which fall in a period of about 30 million years. I and Zafanat Paneach, as well as Ta and all the others, therefore allow us to...
Enough, Florina. I know what you want to say. I now understand your and Zafanat Panich's desire.
Billy, thank you for your understanding.
Well, you suddenly call me Billy.
Please do not be shocked. It just slipped out like you would say. Among us, we often pronounce that name when we talk about you.
No, girl, it does not shock me in any wise. It is just a rarity that one of you addresses me with Billy. Usually you only call me Edward, at least when it comes to official conversations between you and me. It does not matter to me whether they call me Edward or Edward Albert, Muhammad or Billy, because all names belong to me and are a part of me. Every human being may therefore always call me what he or she wants. What I wanted to ask you, though, is that I forgot to ask Ptah. What do you actually think of all the alleged contact people who claim to have contact with extraterrestrials?
You know that I do not think much of the machinations of such Earth humans in this respect. This opinion also applies to Ptah and all the others of us. If it were really the case that such alleged contacts took place, then they would certainly be connected with a lineage of the teaching of the Spirit that has existed since time immemorial and always continues. This teaching, however, as you yourself know best, is extremely extensive and practically endless, and is rooted in the existence of the creation and its laws and recommendations. And this teaching is not to be explained in the form in which the alleged female and male contact persons of earthly origin explain it by writing down alleged messages and transmissions of alleged extraterrestrials and publishing them in books. Truthfully, they should know, present, and interpret the profound teaching of the Spirit in many details. But they are not in a position to do this, which is why the alleged contactors steal material that appeals to them all around and then decorate it with their own trains of thought in order to then declare it as alleged messages, communications, and teachings of some extraterrestrials. Especially your published material, which has been illegally translated into other languages worldwide, is a very popular object for these counterfeiters and swindlers of both sexes. And if one gets to the bottom of the machinations, books and writings as well as the alleged teachings of these elements, then one very quickly recognizes to what the actual origin of their teachings, messages, and communications, etc., are classified. The rule also proves that these alleged contact persons bring teachings, messages, and communications of allegedly extraterrestrial origin, which are either strictly sectarian, religious, or simply shaped in such a manner that they originate recognizably from an earth human who has the thought form of a do-gooder. With the teaching of the Spirit, which is free from coercion, fear-mongering, dogmatism, karma and punishment, etc., there is no question that with the false teachings, messages, and communications, that these would-be contactees would be able to accept nor explain the concerns of the teaching of the Spirit. This really requires a human being who has been familiar and knowledgeable in these matters since time immemorial and beyond many of his or her personalities. For this reason, it would never be enough to maintain contact with extraterrestrials if the necessary knowledge, experience, life experience, and wisdom were lacking, which, however, is absent from all these alleged contact persons.
A bricklayer cannot build a wall or a house if he does not know how to mix and prepare the plaster, and does not know how to handle the trowel and the stoneware.
You say it aptly. But can we now come to my questions and those of Zafanat Paneach? Unfortunately, I am a little time limited today. I would like to come back at another time. For the next time, I am stationed in the SOL system again, also in Jana.
Of course, do not force yourself and start right away.
Thanks for your understanding.